Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Sit back, relax, enjoy the stories. Stay sinful. Story number 1, submitted by Callum. I live in a suburb of a big town in Ireland. My house is located on an estate in a forested area. There is a hotel that is separated by a forest walkway from the back of my house. There is also a graveyard beside my house that many walk through to get to the hotel. Connected to the hotel was a leisure club with a gym, spa, and pool that many people in the village would use. Once I turned 16, my present was my membership to the club. I would constantly go over to the gym after school, run back for dinner, and return to use the pool as people were at work studying when I used the gym, and when they used the gym I would use the pool. It was a great routine that I still do. However, there was this one experience that was damn right terrifying. I was walking back from using the pool one Thursday night. It was October at 9 p.m., so it was pitch black apart from the hotel castle's lights. The hotel lights provided a bit of light when approaching the walkway. I came to a fork in the road. I could either continue down the forest walk for 1/3 of a kilometer, then turn off to the hole in the wall at the back of my house, or turn off into the graveyard. I would then have to come out to the front of the graveyard, go down a hill, and onto a path leading to the front of my house. I was about to go the normal way down the walkway, but my gut instinct was telling me not to go down that way. I chose the graveyard instead. I opened and shut the squeaky sounding gate and walked around the rows of tombstones. There were little candlelights on some of the graves. Over the sound of my own steps, I swear I could hear the sound of footsteps hitting the stony path. Crunch. The sound of someone stepping on small stones on someone's grave made my heart skip a beat. I looked around and saw him. 3 or 4 rows of graves behind me was a man with a hood over his face. His back was turned to me, and yes, he was standing on someone's grave. I was shell-shocked. I stand 6'1" and weigh 70 kilograms, so I may have been able to hold my own against this man, unless he had a knife or a gun. I quickly walked down the road to the front gate without making a sound. I was too far away to see the man. I opened the front gate, which made a squeaky sound. As I did, manic footsteps came running down towards the front gate. I quickly shut it, ran down the hill, and onto the path to the driveway of my house. I looked back. He didn't chase after me once I entered my front garden. I didn't tell my brother, sister, or mom about what I saw. I woke up 2 days later and looked out my window to see police cars parked in the forest. I later checked the local news on my phone. I nearly fainted when I read, "Body found in plastic bag in forest walkway at hotel." I gave my story to the police. I couldn't help them out with a description other than that he was wearing a hoodie and he was 5'10" or 5'11". My siblings have come up with theories about what happened that night, but it's my younger brother's that freaks me out the most. He believes a man may have been down the walkway waiting for me, and that when he saw me stand at the split in the path and turn to the graveyard, he must have thought I saw him and went after me. This would explain why he went into the graveyard behind me, and that he only stopped following me when he saw I reached my house. He must have thought his chance had passed. I'm just glad I trusted my gut instinct that night, because even though I physically outmatched this guy, there was no telling what he could have done to me. Story number 2. My town is known for being dangerous, but I haven't lived here for very long, so I take that with a grain of salt. I was out walking my dog around 7 p.m. and the sun was still shining. As she was walking behind me, I could tell she had stopped. I turned around to watch her. As I turned, I ran my hand through my hair, and I was smiling about the song I was listening to. What caught me off guard was a guy walking past me in the exact same second. I felt very awkward, so I stared into the air with the same smile, but this time with my mouth open. He smiled at me and then continued down the path. He was wearing loose work shorts and a white wife beater. I thought, fuck, because I had just smiled at a stranger that was definitely nearing his 30s, and I'm only 19. I discreetly paid attention to his body language as I walked behind him. I saw him look back at me several times, but I always looked down every time to try and show I wasn't interested. When I saw he walked over the road, I sighed and felt relief and headed to the right instead since the path split up. I saw him watch me. I saw his face when he realized I was going a different direction, and then I saw him slow down. He came to a full stop, pretended to look around and kind of walked in circles on the spot. Then he walked back over the road and just looked in my direction. He wasn't moving, just had his hands in his pockets and staring right at me. I got nervous at this point. The next bit of the walk is just one long sidewalk that my dog loves to sniff. Every time I walked, he walked. Every time I stopped to let my dog sniff, he stopped. I yanked my dog after me, walking as fast as I could without running, and quickly dialed my father. I figured I could either act like I was talking to myself, and hopefully he would get freaked out and think I was weird, or at least maybe he wouldn't do anything if he knew someone else would be able to hear it. I didn't want to look back. I could feel his presence behind me, and I did not want to know how close he was. I make a right into a parking lot as soon as I can and start sprinting, since I knew he couldn't see me. My dad is laughing in the phone, which calmed me down and made it all seem less serious. I ran the rest of my way home and kept an eye on the front door through the window, just to make sure he hadn't followed. Story number 3. This happened a few years ago, and we didn't know exactly who this man was, but it still scared me senseless. When I was 13, I used to have my bed right under my bedroom window. It was also around the time my dog was brought inside, because she got too old to stay out. At the time, we didn't have the screen coverings we have now, so the window could easily be opened and there was no barrier. I always left my window open during the day to let in fresh air. Then I would close and lock it when it started getting dark. My house is surrounded by forest, not very thick, but still thick enough that you can't see clearly through it. It's a completely normal thing to hear strange noises at night, because things like bears or stray dogs, or even our former neighbor's chickens would roam around our yard. So when I heard something shuffling around my window, I didn't think about it and continued playing video games. Not even 10 minutes later, I heard something hit against the window. I thought it may have been a June bug. When they hit a window, they can sound like rocks, so I ignored it. The knocking kept going, but I just kept ignoring it and it finally stopped. Fast forward to 2 a.m. I was finally settling down and going to sleep when I hear breathing. Very faint, enough to miss it if my room wasn't silent. I heard something drag down my window, like a stick or a finger. It did it a few times and that was enough for me. I jumped out of my bed and ran to my dad's room. I told him that there was something at my window, and he immediately came to look. We turned out the light so he could see better, but there was nothing there. I told him what I heard and he said he would take a look in the morning. We did just that. My stomach churned. Under my window, there were 2 different foot tracks, one back and forth beside the generator, and the one that was back and forth directly under my window. There was even cigarette butts laying around near some bushes, like he had crouched there and waited. The foot tracks led towards the woods. We have neighbors that live through the woods and down the hill, so we chalked it up to one of them coming up here drunk. Though what scared me the most about all of this was the fact that when I went to open my window later that day, I found that it was unlocked. I forgot to lock it the night before. He could have gotten in without issue. Story number 4. My husband and I love to go driving. We prefer road trips, but on the weekends or nights when we have nothing better to do, we go cruising and just drive around. We prefer smooth and not busy roads. On this particular night, we were bored and decided to go cruising. We went up north to a small town about half an hour from the city, where the roads are curvy and smooth. This town is close to the mountains, and if you follow this particular main street all the way up north, it starts driving up to a mountain. It's 9 p.m. and there are very few cars on the roads, but we keep going north away from the homes and stores, and eventually to where the road starts curving uphill. We drive up for about 15 minutes more, and now it's pitch black when we see some blinking lights. As we get closer, we see that a truck is on the side of the road facing us. I'm getting the chills thinking about being all the way out here in the middle of nowhere, and a stranded truck on the side of the road. As he slowly approaches closer, I tell my husband it's probably for the best to turn back, and that I had a bad feeling. But at this point, we are pretty much to the truck. As he pulls up next to the truck, a young blonde guy, maybe in his late 20s, comes around and gets next to our window. I get such a bad vibe by this, and I tell my husband not to put down the window. I think he also gets a weird feeling, so he actually listens. He kind of just loudly asks what's wrong, and the guy just says something wrong with his truck, and that he might need a hand. His phone is dead as well. My husband asks what happened, but the guy insists on showing him, and to come outside and take a look. He says it very friendly and even calls him bro, and says he's so glad we pulled up. My husband says, "You know what? I won't be much help. I know nothing about cars. Let me call for help." He knows a lot about cars, actually. The guy is insisting and gets visibly upset. I'm looking back at the truck and I thought I caught movement inside of the truck. I tell my husband that I think we should go. Now. He probably saw the look of fear on my face because he put the car in reverse. But as he did, that guy is now behind our car, acting stressed out, rubbing his face and pacing. So my husband decides to go forward instead. We drive up for maybe 2 minutes trying to find a place to turn around, since the road is so narrow. The road turns to a dirt road, and there's a little more space on the side, so he's finally able to turn our car around. I'm dreading going back that way now, and our phones have no signal at all. In my mind, I know that this all could be really someone with car problems. Maybe a friend is in the truck too. He never said he was alone. I just can't help fighting the bad feeling in my gut. We soon reach the area where the truck had been, but there's no truck at all. We drive down another 5 minutes, but no trace of the truck. We were sure we had passed the place where it had been. Like I said, we didn't drive up too far to begin with. I'm both relieved and terrified that the truck was no longer there. If it really had broken down, how did they get it to work again in such a short time? Calming myself down, I'm telling my husband, "Hey, maybe they really did get it to work. Maybe it turned on all of a sudden they were able to drive off." Suspicious, but not impossible. As we keep driving, the roads are straightening out. We notice far off the truck with all the lights off and parked to the side again. We notice movement in the bed of the truck. I say out loud, "Why did they turn off all the lights?" I think they think we are still too far away to see them, but we see 2 figures get out on either side of the truck and crouch down. We get closer and my husband floors it. As we drive past, 2 men get up, one of them the guy who we had spoken to, and someone else with a very surprised look on their face. One of them runs behind us for a bit, and we see them get tinier in the background. I keep looking back terrified, but it's dark back there, when all of a sudden I see headlights turn on in the truck, and they start driving our direction. My husband keeps going fast and eventually we lose the headlights. I keep looking back the rest of the way, so scared that they are somehow still following us. Maybe they turned off their lights again and I can't see them. Anyway, after driving for a very long time back to the city, we convince ourselves no one is following us. We do call the non-emergency line and give a description of what we saw. No, we didn't get the plates of the truck. It was all so fast, and all the fear I didn't think to get them. We just give a description of the guy we saw, the type of truck it was, but there's really nothing that could be done. I realized all this could be rationalized, but in the moment we were filled with terror, being out there in the middle of nowhere with all the possibilities. They could have been armed. They could have put their truck sideways and left us with nowhere to go. They could have put something out in the road to rip up our tires. And even though it could all have some explanation, there are still many questions unanswered. Why couldn't he tell us what was wrong? How did the truck work again so fast? And why did they turn off all their lights? Why did they hide? It's been about a year and it's just a creepy experience now. We still go cruising, but usually we stick to a little more civilized area, at least for nighttime cruises. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. Email your true scaries to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I will include my email address in the description below as well. Until we meet again, stay sinful.